Our wedding day dawned bright and beautiful, filled with the joyful anticipation and inevitable nerves that lace such monumental occasions. Laughter rippled through the air as we prepared to step into a new chapter together, surrounded by those we love most. The venue, an elegant manor set against lush gardens, looked like a scene from a fairy tale. As the ceremony unfolded under a canopy of delicate flowers, the air was thick with the sweet aroma of roses and the palpable feeling of our shared happiness. After the vows were exchanged and the applause subsided, we made our way to the honeymoon suite. The room greeted us with a romantic ambience, adorned with soft, glowing candles and rose petals scattered across the silken sheets. As we settled into the room post-reception, the exhilaration of the day's festivities still buzzed in our ears. The suite, with its enchanting decor and inviting warmth, promised a serene start to our life together. Despite the warmth of the room, an unexpected chill seemed to sweep through the air. It was an unusual contrast to the balmy summer night outside, adding a mysterious touch to our wedding night atmosphere. As the night wore on, a soft but distinct whispering filled the air, unsettling in the otherwise serene atmosphere of our honeymoon suite. The whispers seemed to dance on the edge of comprehension, too faint to discern but palpable enough to feel their presence. Looking towards the window, a shadowy figure caught my eye, standing out against the moonlit backdrop. Initially, I thought it might be a late guest from our wedding, perhaps lost on their way to their room, but something about the silhouette felt amiss. Approaching the figure, my heart pounded with a mix of curiosity and unease. As I drew closer, the room felt colder, and the soft whispers grew louder, wrapping around me like a chilling breeze. Standing face to face with the figure, I froze in horror. Where I expected features, there was nothing but a dark void. No eyes to meet my gaze, no expression to read. It was a faceless shadow, its presence both bewildering and terrifying. Rushing back to where my wife was waiting, my voice trembled as I recounted what I had seen. Her eyes widened with fear, and she clung to me, her body shaking. Together, we faced the unknown that had invaded our wedding night. My wife's reaction was instantaneous and visceral, marked by a sharp intake of breath and a vice-like grip on my arm. Fear radiated from her eyes as she pulled herself closer, seeking comfort in my presence amidst the inexplicable terror. With no immediate solution at hand, I knew we needed someone wiser and braver than ourselves. The thought of my mother, a woman fortified by her deep faith, brought a glimmer of hope. We decided to seek her counsel, believing her spiritual strength would guide us through this nightmare. The walk to my mother's room felt like traversing a minefield, every step charged with tension. The house, usually a bastion of warmth and safety, now seemed cloaked in a suffocating silence that amplified our fears. Upon reaching her, I hurriedly explained the eerie happenings, from the whispers to the faceless apparition. My mother listened intently, her expression a mix of concern and resolve, which somehow reassured us that we weren't alone in this frightening ordeal. Without hesitation, she suggested confronting the entity with prayer. Her confidence was comforting, yet the gravity of her proposal hung heavily in the air. We watched as she retrieved the old family Bible, its pages worn from years of use but still a symbol of unwavering faith. Retrieving the family Bible felt like a moment of immense importance. The worn leather cover and the familiar weight of the pages in our hands brought a small comfort in the midst of our fear as we prepared to face the unknown. With solemn steps, we returned to the honeymoon suite, the Bible clutched tightly between us. My mother led the way, her voice steady and confident as she began to recite verses known for their protective power, filling the room with an authoritative calm. The atmosphere thickened as my mother's prayers grew louder, the words reverberating against the walls. The shadowy figure flickered like a candle in the wind, its form becoming less distinct with each verse spoken from the holy book. Suddenly, the figure began to fade, dissolving into the air like smoke. Our eyes widened as we watched, hardly daring to breathe. The room felt lighter, the once oppressive air lifting as if a window had been opened to let in a fresh breeze. After the shadow vanished, we stood in silence, the echo of my mother's prayers still lingering. Relief washed over us, yet the residue of fear remained. We wondered if the spirit had truly left, or if it was merely hiding, waiting for a chance to return. As we nestled back under the covers, a palpable sense of relief washed over us, yet the eerie residue of fear lingered in the air. The room felt different, charged with a silent tension that made it hard to relax fully. Lying in the darkness, we reflected on the surreal events that had unfolded. What had been a night of celebration turned into a haunting encounter, leaving us questioning the very fabric of our reality as we sought peace in each other's arms. I had always dreamed of a perfect wedding, one that was intimate and secluded from the usual hustle and bustle. The idea was to create a magical, exclusive event surrounded by nature, where the beauty of the surroundings would enhance the solemnity of our vows. The search led us to an isolated location known only to a few. Its untouched landscape promised not only breathtaking views, but also the privacy we craved. Here, the world seemed to pause, offering us a tranquil haven for our special day. The excitement was palpable as we sent out our wedding invitations. They weren't just cards, they were keys to an exclusive adventure, carefully selected for our dearest friends and relatives. Each invite hinted at the unique experience that awaited our guests. Upon arrival, the venue's charm was immediately apparent despite its slightly eerie aura. The ancient trees whispered old secrets and the rustic setup blended seamlessly with the wild. It was both awe-inspiring and a bit daunting, a place touched by time yet perfect for our beginning. The first night, however, brought an unsettling silence that blanketed the area. It was a stark contrast to the daytime's serene beauty. As darkness fell, a creeping sense of dread began to unfurl among us, hinting that perhaps the venue held more than just visual splendor. As night fell on our secluded wedding venue, the air filled with whispers of unease among the guests. Several people shared their experiences of hearing strange noises, soft, indistinct murmurs that seemed to float through the halls, unsettling the festive mood. The unsettling atmosphere intensified when we began to uncover eerie local legends about the venue. It was said that the area was cursed, haunted by the spirits of a tragic event long past. These stories only served to heighten our sense of dread. During the rehearsal dinner, the room grew inexplicably cold in patches, and lights flickered without apparent cause. These disturbances gave a tangible credence to the ghostly tales we had previously only whispered about, sending shivers down our spines. The tension peaked when one of our guests, who claimed to have psychic abilities, sensed malevolent spirits lingering among us. Her conviction and fear were palpable, making even the skeptics among us pause and reconsider the reality of our situation. That same night, several guests reported seeing apparitions in their rooms around midnight. These sightings were not mere shadows, but distinct ghostly figures that appeared with chilling clarity before vanishing into the cold night air. The wedding dress, once pristine and elegant, was found mysteriously torn, with odd stains marring its white silk. No explanation could account for the damage, adding a layer of anxiety to the already tense atmosphere of the venue. An elder relative, usually robust and cheerful, succumbed suddenly to illness. In his feverish state, he whispered of visions connected to an old tragedy that once occurred on these grounds, his words sending chills among the family members gathered around him. The mood shifted palpably when the wedding officiant, upon arriving at the venue, adamantly refused to conduct the ceremony. He confessed to feeling an overwhelming evil presence, further intensifying the group's fear and uncertainty about the place they had chosen for such a joyous occasion. That evening, as dark clouds loomed ominously overhead, a violent storm erupted. The fierce winds and relentless rain trapped everyone inside, isolating the group further from the outside world and from any hope of immediate rescue or escape. Panic set in as communication lines went down. The storm had knocked out the venue's power and severed all connections with the outside, leaving everyone feeling helpless and desperate, pondering their next move as the haunting continued unabated. As dawn broke, we made a collective decision to leave the haunted venue. Despite the relentless storm outside, The real storm of fear and panic that had settled among us urged a swift departure. The eerie atmosphere was too much to bear any longer. Just as we gathered our belongings and headed for the exit, our path was blocked by ghostly figures. These apparitions, pale and sorrowful, seemed to stare through us, sending chills down everyone's spine. No way out was clear, and fear gripped our hearts. With no choice but to return to the venue, the once celebratory hall now echoed with whispers and cries. The air was thick with anxiety, as each sound seemed to tell tales of old sorrows and tragedies that had occurred within these walls. In an attempt to restore peace, our psychic guest proposed a seance to communicate with the troubled spirits. With candles lit and hands joined, we called out to the spirits, seeking understanding and permission to leave their haunted domain without further disturbances. The seance was intense but ultimately led to a breakthrough. We learned of the venue's cursed past directly from the aggrieved spirits. In a tense negotiation, we pleaded for a peaceful departure. Thankfully, the spirits agreed, allowing us to leave unhindered at last. In a tense atmosphere thick with fear and hope, we managed to negotiate with the spirits haunting the venue. Their mournful cries ebbed as they agreed to let us depart safely. The air lightened slightly, a silent concession granted amidst the relentless storm. Reflecting on our harrowing experience, it became clear that some places hold deeper scars and secrets than we can fathom. This ordeal taught us a profound lesson in respecting the histories of unknown territories before seeking to claim them for our occasions. Of course, there are bound to be things that go wrong on your wedding day, but for most of these, it all worked out in the end and the married couple were happy and still got hitched. And there is my horror experience of my own wedding day. When I first met my wife in high school, her beautiful, sparkling eyes drew me in. They were a reflection of heaven, and her voice, a chorus of angels. I proposed after we graduated from college. It was a joyous day when I proposed to my beloved, surrounded by the hopeful whispers of our future together. The air was electric with excitement as we dreamt of a life side by side, hearts intertwined with promises of forever. And we planned our future together. We decided to get married. The thrill of planning our wedding soon followed, with visions of a charming ceremony in the local church where we both grew up. Each decision, from flowers to guest lists, was infused with love and the anticipation of sharing our commitment. However, as the days passed, I noticed a shift in my fiancée's behavior. The tranquility of her sleep was replaced by a restless unease. Night after night, she seemed to battle invisible demons in her dreams. Her once peaceful nights turned into episodes of her tossing and turning, mumbling words I couldn't understand. It was as if she was having a distant conversation, her whispers floating in the dark, leaving a chill in their wake. My concern grew as her daytime demeanor also began to change. The light in her eyes dimmed and she became distant, her mind seemingly preoccupied with thoughts she couldn't voice. Despite this, we pressed on with our wedding plans, clinging to hope amidst the looming uncertainty. Despite my growing concerns about her increasingly odd behavior, we pressed on with our wedding plans. The love I felt for her overpowered the unease, convincing me that we could overcome any challenge together. As our wedding day approached, an eerie calm settled over what should have been a joyful occasion. This stark contrast to the usual wedding excitement filled me with a sense of dread, yet I remained hopeful that the day would restore her spirits. On the day of our wedding, as she walked down the aisle, there was something unsettling in her gaze. It was as if the person looking back at me was someone I barely recognized, her eyes clouded with something unspoken. The atmosphere shifted drastically when she reached the altar. What began as a whisper turned into a crescendo of chaos. Her actions became wild and uncontrollable, a stark departure from the woman I knew and loved. The priest, initially taken aback by her behavior, quickly discerned that this was no mere panic attack. With a resolve that seemed to come from years of unseen battles, he took immediate, shocking action to address the situation unfolding before us all. The congregation gasped as the scene unfolded, shock etched on every face. The priest, usually a figure of calm, acted with uncharacteristic urgency as he pinned her to the altar. It was a moment that shattered the solemnity of the ceremony. Chains clinked coldly in the hushed church as they were wrapped around her wrists and ankles. Her movements, wild and uncontrollable just seconds before, were now restricted. The sound of metal securing metal echoed off the stone walls, marking a stark turn in the day's events. Her transformation was terrifying. The sweet, loving voice that had once promised forever now contorted into unsettling hisses and guttural howls. The air grew thick with tension, the congregation sitting frozen, witnessing a scene far from any nuptial bliss they had anticipated. The priest's face was a mask of solemnity as he declared the need for an exorcism. His voice, firm and resolute, cut through the murmurs of disbelief. This ancient ritual, unexpected and fearsome, was about to unfold before our very eyes. Heartbreak mingled with horror as I stood by, feeling utterly helpless. Watching the love of my life undergo such a harrowing ordeal was agonizing. I clung to the hope that this ancient rite would restore the woman I loved back to herself. The church was thick with tension as the priest continued his fervent prayers, his voice echoing off the ancient walls. Around us the air felt charged, almost electric, as if the battle between holy might and malevolent spirit was tangible. Each command he issued seemed to draw a visceral reaction, a testament to the intensity of the spiritual warfare unfolding before our eyes. Gradually, the violent convulsions that had racked my wife's body began to ease. The room, once filled with her screams and the sounds of struggle, quieted down as the priest's words started to take effect. You could feel the shift in the atmosphere, a lightening, as if a heavy weight was being lifted from the room and from her soul. After what felt like an eternity, all movement ceased. The church fell into a profound silence, the kind that envelops you completely, leaving room for nothing but shared relief and quiet reflection. It was as if the building itself was breathing a sigh of relief after the tumultuous battle. The priest, sweaty and pale, finally relaxed his stance and announced that the evil presence had been expelled. His voice was weary but filled with a cautious optimism. Relief washed over me, though it was tempered by the reality of what had just occurred. Our friends and family began to whisper among themselves, a buzz of disbelief mingling with their concern. In the months that followed, the healing process was slow and delicate. Both physically and emotionally, we took tentative steps towards recovery, supported by the love of those around us. The real test of our vows had come unexpectedly early in our marriage, teaching us the true depth of in sickness and in health. The days and weeks that followed were a time of gentle healing. We supported each other through the physical scars and emotional turmoil. Each small step forward was a testament to our resilience and deepening bond. Months later, we stood before our loved ones again, renewing our vows. This time, the words "in sickness and in health" resonated with profound significance. Our shared ordeal had fortified our commitment, and our love grew even stronger and more sacred. Dear viewers, if you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Mr. Horrorhood, to watch more such fearful and real-life experience videos. Thanks for watching. See you in next video.